Hey guys, it's Jamie from Gilbrook Farm, and we're going to take you along today while we can some butter. We just got back from picking up about 15 pounds of butter from Azure. Azure Standard is where we order a lot of our bulk foods currently, and the brand of butter that I like to use is called Rumiano. I use the salted butter because I like it, and the reason that I use Rumiano is because it's growth hormone free, that's RBST free. I did run out of butter in between shipments. Azure shipments only come once a month, and the kind that I got from a local health food store was this Amish roll butter. It's probably not growth hormone free, but it is a good butter. When you melt it down, you can tell that it's a good quality butter. Which leads me into the next section. First of all, you cannot use margarine. You have to use a good quality butter. And secondly, just because it's labeled organic, this is not organic, but just because a brand is labeled organic or it has a good, it's a brand name, does not mean that it's a good quality butter. I was actually watching another channel where a lady had melted down so-called organic butter, and there was about a third of oil on top and there was some wax floating in there. That is not quality butter. You really won't know your quality of your butter until you melt it down. So if you guys are getting into buying butter, or canning at all, canning butter, you're going to want to do a small sample first. Don't go buying 15 pounds of some brand or even of a brand you currently use that you haven't melted down to see the quality of the butter. And I'll show you a good quality butter when this is done. So let's talk about canning butter in general. This is not a how to can butter video. And the reason for that is because there is no safe approved way of canning butter. There is no food preservation organization that says it's okay to can butter. The reason for that is because from what I just said, the quality of butter ranges dramatically. So there's no way to say that all butter is safe to can or all butter is unsafe to can. And there really hasn't been any true testing done on butter. That said, no organization is willing to back and say that it's okay to can butter. But a lot of us still do it. If you guys decide that you want to can butter, that you do so at your own risk. There is a possibility of botulism with any kind of canning, including canning butter. In particular, this is not really truly canning butter because we are not putting it into a water bath and we're not putting it into a pressure canner. Really, we're just sealing it in a jar. Now, as far as how much butter to buy, I only buy up to 6 months worth, at 4 to 6 months. I do not buy a year's worth of butter. The reason for that is because any kind of fat sitting on a shelf go rancid very, very quickly. So I will only buy up to a 6 month supply, and 6 months is the longest I've ever kept any butter. Now there may be some of you out there that kept it longer and have had great success with that. Personally, right now at this point, I'm just going to stick with the 6 month mark and not go any further than that. And about 15 to 18 pounds is about what we would use in about a 6 month span. Okay, so let's get started on canning butter. Now the first thing to understand, you're going to need some jars. I used to can in the half pints, but now I can in the pints because we just use it so much. We use a lot of butter. I do not sterilize my jars for any type of canning as long as I am putting it in a water bath for longer than 10 minutes or if I'm putting it into a pressure canner. A lot of people do. I do not. However, for canning butter, I will sterilize these. I will sterilize the lids, and I will only use brand new lids from a box. I reuse lids for other items, but I will only use brand new lids. I take sterility very, very seriously when it comes to canning butter because this is not a true canning process. So how do you sterilize your jars? Well, one way, or the old-fashioned way of sterilizing your jars, is to put your jars upright into warm water in a water bath canner with the jar side up, crank up the heat, put the lid on, and once it reaches a boil, time it for 10 minutes, then your jars are sterilized. We're gonna throw ours in the dishwasher. This is really the only time that I use my dishwasher, and it is quite handy for sterilizing jars. Our dishwasher has a sandy wash button, and we do put it on heated dry so there's no water in the jars. We're gonna let that run. Okay, we have our jars sterilizing in the dishwasher. They've been running for about 15 minutes now. So we're gonna get our butter started and we are going to start sterilizing our lids. To sterilize the lids, again, I only use new lids when I'm canning butter. I have both a mixture of the wide mouth and the standard regular lid, so we're gonna put both of those in here. Honestly, it's your preference. I think probably wide mouth's a little bit better and easier to get out of the jar, but it really doesn't matter. So I'm using a combination of both. We're just gonna put these into some simmering water to sterilize. And we're going to bring the temperature up to that till it's simmering, not boiling. And now we're going to start dumping our butter into a pot. We are going to heat this up on medium-low. You do not want to boil your butter. You don't want to boil really any fats. You want to keep this on low. We're just trying to melt it. We're not trying to cook it. We're going to do only a couple of these at a time because I don't have a pot that's big enough. Look at all that good butter. So we're wedged in here. This is going to be a process, so you want to make sure you keep an eye on it and keep trying to break it down and push the bigger chunks to the bottom and keep it from obviously boiling or burning. Okay, our butter's completely melted, and I brought up the temperature just a smidge so that it makes it a little bit warmer, which will help it seal a little bit better. We're going to turn this off, and we're going to go get our jars out of the dishwasher. Alright, my husband wants me to zap this for you. Let's see how hot this is. It's hot. We have our jars, and now we're going to ladle them into the jars. I have a little container of white vinegar here that we're going to use to clean the rims. And some people skim the foam off of this. I don't. I just make sure to dig nice and deep because sometimes the butter will separate. And we just start filling our jars. And I leave about 3/4 to an inch of headspace. And now I'm going to clean the rims off with vinegar. The vinegar helps with the fat. Now we're going to put our lids on. You can see they're simmering in here. And we're going to put our rings on. You know what I did not sterilize my rings. They're not touching the butter at all. They're just holding on the sterile lid. And these will be removed after the jars seal. Okay, so all the jars are that have the lids on and they have the rings on, and now begins the process as they cool where you continually shake them because they will separate, so you want to keep shaking them for the next several hours. Once they get cool enough, then you can stick them in the refrigerator to speed up the process, and again, while they're in the fridge, we're going to continue to shake them until they get more solid. And we're going to start our next batch of butter as well. Now, I've seen where some people who can butter will take these jars and then put them in a water bath canner for anywhere between 10 minutes and 30 minutes. I've seen some people that'll put these in a pressure canner as well. This is the way that I do it. I've seen other people on YouTube do it this way. I've been doing it this way for a year and it works really well for me. Okay, so our second batch of butter is now melted. Again, I'm going to bring the temperature up just a little bit till bubbles start breaking the surface. I have a ting from one of my first batches. If your butter is not hot enough, it won't seal. So you want to make sure it's warm, but you don't want to boil it. So we're just going to bring it up till we have just a couple bubbles breaking the surface. And you just want to keep an eye on the foam, that it doesn't foam over, and you also want to keep an eye that it doesn't start bubbling rapidly. This is not a point where you want to leave the kitchen and let this do its own thing. We're going to stay right here, we're going to continue to stir it, make sure it doesn't burn, and we're just, in the next few minutes, going to turn the oven off, or turn the stove off, because this will be good to go. Another ding. That's what we want. We're not boiling it, we just want to get it started, and we're going to turn our oven off. Be very careful with the foam. I'm going to move this off the heat. And now we're going to start jarring it. So I just got the rest of my jars out of the dishwasher. Now they're not hot, but they're still warm. You never want to put a hot liquid into a cold jar, or vice versa. So the jars are still warm. If your jars are not warm, if maybe you took a day off or something, you're going to want to make sure you heat your jars up again before you add your hot butter. Again, we're going to stir it around to make sure that nothing is separated and we get all the different layers. And we're going to start ladling. Okay, these jars have been sitting out for about an hour and a half now. They're cool enough that they can go in the fridge, where we're going to speed up the solidification process. So I'm going to give them a last shake. And just so you can see what we're shaking, you can see the white milk in the bottom, the milk solids. We're trying to shake that up a bit. You might still have some at the bottom whenever it's done solidifying, but you want to try and get that shaken up as much as possible. Okay, so we're going to put these in the fridge now. These are room temperature. They've been sitting out for about an hour and a half. Again, do not put hot jars in a cold fridge. They will crack and break. They have to cool down to room temperature first before you can put them in the fridge. These are room temperature. We're going to put them in, and we're going to continue to shake these about every 20 to 30 minutes. Okay guys, so it's a little bit after 9 o'clock, and I just took the last of the jars out of the fridge. We started canning around 3 o'clock, so about a little over 6 hours until everything is complete. and everything, all the butter is solidified. But most of the canning was done by 5:30, so about 2.5 hours. Then after that, it was just a matter of shaking it every 30 minutes. Here's one of our jars. You can see that the color's pretty even, so we did a good job of shaking them while it was cooling. There's a little bit of white milk solids in the bottom. Sometimes if you don't shake it enough in the process, you'll get like a thicker white layer in the bottom. And that's okay, it's not going to hurt it, but you do want to try and keep it, you know, evenly distributed if possible. So that's it. I'm just going to label my jars and put them away. I have one here that wasn't quite full, and I'm going to open this up for you guys because we're going to keep this in the fridge upstairs. And that's one thing to note. When you guys open up a jar, or when I open up a jar of butter, it has to be stored in the fridge because it will mold or mildew if it's left out. So let's open this up. And you can see there's the butter. This is one that we're going to keep upstairs in the fridge. And I'll put that one aside. Now, this is my 4th time canning butter. The first time was only a test batch, and so far it's been a great success. And by great success, I mean I'm still alive. I'm not dead from botulism. You know, it worked out really well for us. Like I said, I only can up to a 6-month supply at a time, and I use it for everything, and it works just like regular butter. I don't have any issues with it whatsoever, but you do see that the techniques that I use, I'm very, very careful with it. If you guys choose to can your own butter, you need to do so at your own risk. This is not a how to can video, this is a I'm taking you along while I'm canning butter video. So, like I said, if you guys choose to do this, you do so at your own risk. Know that it is not an approved method. There's always a chance of botulism, in particular with canning butter, because there is no safe or approved way that has been thoroughly tested. So I'm going to go ahead and label all these, and I'm going to store them with the rings off. I always store all my cans with the rings off, so if there is a false seal, I know it right away. Sometimes the rings can hold the lid on falsely, and when you take it off it'll pop, and you don't know if that's because this was holding it on or if it was because it was a false seal. So I always store it just like this, so I know there's no false seals. And I always smell everything before I eat it. If it doesn't smell good, I don't eat it. I haven't had that problem yet, but just something to note. So we're going to go ahead, take the rings all off, and put the dates all on these and put them away in the basement. One last thing to mention is my yield. So I melted down, what was it, 15, 16, 17 and a quarter pounds of butter, and I ended up with 20 3/4 pints of butter. So if you guys are wondering about yield, that's what I got out of it. Let's go put them away. So there you have it, guys. That's how I can butter. If you guys can your own butter and have any tips or tricks, leave your tips or tricks below. And if you guys have any questions or comments, I can't answer them because I'm not an authority figure on canning butter that you're not supposed to can. So don't leave those below. But if you like this kind of stuff, like and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Hey guys, a little behind the scenes shot here. While we're shooting our canning butter video, it's almost 4 o'clock, and our first batch of butter isn't quite melted yet, and I know that it's going to take us probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours to continue the process of canning this butter, and I'm not going to have time to cook dinner. So this is where having food in jars is really convenient. I have this Senate ham and bean soup that I just grabbed from the basement. We're going to heat this up. And we have some French-ish bread that we're going to eat with it. So there you go, guys. Quick little thing to show you how convenient it is to have this food in jars in your basement.